This is Raymond from PIG. You are listening to BODS Mayhem Hour.
Welcome to BODS Mayhem Hour, your source for all hard rock, heavy metal, new metal, alternative, punk, horror punk, hardcore, rock, and all local bands with your host, John the Bod, a.k.a. the Bodfather.
Hey everybody, welcome to BODS Mayhem Hour. I'm your host, John the Bod, a.k.a. the Bodfather, and as always, I'm bringing you guys awesome interviews, and today it is an honor and privilege to have the legendary industrial act, Mr. Raymond Watts of PIG. Got him on here. We're going to be talking about his actually new album called Risen. We're going to be talking about that. That's out on June 8th, actually, via Metropolis Records. And I've got to dab into this a little bit. And, you know, I'm not a big industrial guy, electro rock guy, but let me tell you something. Lords of Acid album was superb. This album right now is actually fucking good. I would just say that. And I've got several songs that I like on here. The Chosen Few, the kickoff one, Morphine Machine, Loud, Lawless, and Lost, The Revelation, Truth is Sin, The Vice Girls, The Cult of Chaos. Just give this a chance, folks. It's pretty damn good. So, Ray, how's it going, man?
Oh, it's absolutely going great, actually. It's a joy to be talking to you, man.
Yeah, glad to have you on here. Like I said, those songs on this album is really fucking good from you guys, man.
Thank you. Much appreciated. I was listening to you reading out the titles, and I was thinking, shit, man, those are pretty nice fucking titles.
It's like,
I pride myself on my titles.
Now, on this album, you worked with and had several guest appearances from Tim Skold, which is Marilyn Manson, KM, FDM, Motionless and White. Plus, you had others on here that collaborated, which I hope I pronounced their names right. Ben Christo. He's with Sisters.
Yeah, Ben Christo from the Sisters, and yeah.
Yeah, and then Z Mar, is that correct, for Comba Christ?
That's correct, yeah.
And then I don't know if I can pronounce this right, but I'll give it a hell of a shot. N Ishq from KM.
N Esh, who is a very, very old partner in crime from back in the mid-'80s when we were together, and we started a band with another guy called Sasha, called KMFDM, that goes back a long, long time as well.
Yeah, KMFDM, man. That set the way for a lot of bands, electro stuff like that. In my opinion, that's just me.
Right.
Then you had, and I'll pronounce his name right if I can, Umi Kapalia.
Umi Kapila, right? Yes, he does lots of stuff, and he's well known for. I think he produced the last Combi Christ record, and he's been in this band Filter, and he did some remix for me last year, and I had to reach out and get him to stick his oar in and help, and that's been a joy. An absolute privilege working with that lot.
So when you were putting this together and you had all these guys help you out on this, let's talk about that a little bit. How was working with all of these guys on this, man?
Well, as we live in this delightful digital age, obviously, although I know all these guys, a lot of this is done remotely and we'll send files. Personally, I'm kind of old school and I prefer to be shoulder to shoulder in the trenches, working on the track in the studio with the people. But sometimes we talk, and then I'll send files. So, for example, Ben from the Sisters, for Sister Mercy, he lives really close to me here in London. So we hunker down in the studio and literally be going, no, like this and like that. And I've got this idea, and it's a bit more like sort of molding pottery. You know, it's real hands-on. And NS from KMFDM, he's in Berlin, but he's been over here. It's kind of a short hop, helping out. Zimar from he used to be in Combi Christ. He's part of the PIG camp very much. So we molded a lot of this stuff together. Where just after our last UK tour last year, I can't remember what the question was. There we go. But yeah, we work in different ways. I used to be much more hands-on and controlling, both hands firmly on the steering wheel of the PIG machine. And now I'm kind of really like working with people. It's much more, it's kind of fun, hearing what people put on the table and seeing what kind of mess I can make of it. Do you know what I mean? And sort of how you can turn it inside out. So therefore, I kind of find the collaborative process much more interesting than I used to be. I kind of find it a little bit more a little bit more surprising sometimes where things go.
Now, you've got several albums and EPs that's out right now with Pig. What's impressed you the most about making this new album? What's caught your eye about it, if anything, man?
Well, this one was kind of quite, I don't know, it was quite like it was sort of, it was there in my head, and I basically had to chip away everything that didn't sound like the thing I had, the noise that was going on in my head. So the thing I've kind of enjoyed about it is it's quite kind of eclectic. There's some fucking tough electro grinding guitar shit in there, and there's some really strong kind of melodic stuff, and I've got the sort of some of the more not ambient but kind of gentle stuff that I quite like to hear as well. So it's quite a kind of varied landscape. I quite like to have if I've got a record, I quite like it when it'll go from this kind of texture to that texture. It's not one texture all the way across. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
You know, and that's the thing I quite like about it. Sometimes it's great to just go bang, 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 bang the whole time, and sometimes it's nice to have a little bit more of a contour. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, you've got a roller coaster of songs and stuff on here, peaks and valleys of it. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah, peaks and valleys. Yes, thank you.
People are saying this is a highly anticipated album from you. What's your take on that, man?
Oh, man, highly anticipated. Really? Who said that? I have not fucking heard that. In my dreams, it's highly anticipated. I think it's sort of, I don't know, maybe there's a certain amount of trepidation of awaiting its delivery. But, you know, it's like, I don't know if that's true. I think that's just so much stuff. I mean, people will listen to it and they'll either like it or they don't like it. And some people might like bits and not like other bits. I mean, that's the way with a lot of this stuff. I tell you what, for me, it's like doing the process. I've got not just the people that I collaborate with in the studio, but like the people who work with me on the art stuff. You know, Vlad McNeely, who's done this fantastic artwork thing for it. And Gabriel Edvey, who does visuals for me as well. And they are a real joy to work with. So I just like the process of doing it, writing the music, making the music, you know, sculpting it, but also the artwork, because I've done a vinyl over here as well. Metropolis have done the CD, and I've done the vinyl myself with a little label here in London called Armalite. And it's kind of quite fucking out there artwork with stuff on it and amazing shit happening. I'm working with people and you go, look, I've got this crazy idea. And they go, oh, yeah, we can make that happen. We'll do this. And I go, look, I want to put a 3D lenticular postcard on the vinyl, and I want to do foil on the CD, and I want to do this, that, and the other. And working with people that can help manifest that thing is really great fun, you know.
How long did it take to record the album? How long did it take you to process this?
In reality, from start to finish, probably about 8 months. Yeah, but you know what, man? It takes about 8 months, but a lot of the lyrics and shit I wrote quite a long time ago, and then they sit on the shelf, and then you come back to them, and then you chisel away at them. And so, and like the music for Loud, Lawless or Lost, right? Loud, Lawless and Lost has been around for ages, and then I just didn't know what to do with it, and I didn't have quite the right lyric or quite the right vocal thing happening, and then it gets done really quickly in one day, and other songs just come together literally in a few hours, and others take quite a long time. So it's a weird process, you know what I mean? It's kind of elastic. It's like wheels spin really fast in some areas and really slowly in other areas.
Sure.
And the whole thing makes up the kind of mechanism of a great big clock, and everything chimes together.
Are there any songs off the album that stand out more to you than any on it as of right now, man? I mean, I know these are like picking your favorite child or your favorite collectible, and I know these change from day to day probably for you, but are there any on it that stick out for you?
I do really like Morphine Machine that I did with Tim, with Tim Scold. Particularly at the moment, I'm really fond of that one, just because it's kind of glam. It's kind of glam and brash and a bit tongue-in-cheek. But like a lot of things, it's tongue-in-cheek, but it's kind of quite deadly serious as well. You know, so yeah, I mean, it's like you're right. It's impossible to choose your favorite child, but I'm quite fond of that one at the moment.
And you produced this album, correct?
Yeah.
Do you like this side of being the producer, doing it your way versus, say, having to work with an actual producer or anything like that? Do you like this?
Well, to be perfectly honest, the reason why I started doing Pig was a kind of reaction to lots of the other things I was doing. You know, I'd been in bands, then I left bands in the early, then I sort of didn't want to be in a band in the early 80s and started recording and cutting tape loops and working for experimental, weird, noisy German bands and British bands as well. And the reaction was to do so I didn't want a producer or a writer. I wanted to do my own thing and plough that furrow. And I still went on working with and for other people, sort of being the midwife to their particular baby that I would sort of help deliver as a producer. That's what you do. You're kind of the midwife to someone else's vision. And I still would enjoy doing that. But I like doing the pig thing still because it's, I cut my own beast from the belly with whatever tools I have to hand. And that's what it's about. So I don't, at the moment, need a producer, but it's great to have additional production from other people because it helps. And it's just more interesting.
Growing up in East Berlin at the time of the wall that was cut off by land, folks, divided West Berlin from virtually all of surrounding East Germany and East Berlin until government officials opened it up in November of 1989. How tough was this, and living there at this time, and did music allow you to escape what was going on at that time, man?
When I was younger, music was an escape, but when I was living in West Berlin, I think you said East Berlin, I was living in West Berlin, but surrounded by East Germany, okay. A little sort of an island there. I think music was more of a vehicle to get into things more, to get closer to the nerve, to get closer to the essence of what was going on there, because it was quite it's very weird to be living in a city that has a fucking wall around it and then minefields around it and watchtowers with machine guns. And it was kind of like a camp in a way. It was like a camp in a sort of, and I don't mean that in a sort of banal sort of way, because West Berlin was a sort of propaganda outpost, and there was a lot of government money was pumped in from the West to kind of keep it alive. So it had a weird flavor of being a bit like a prison and a bit like a holiday camp and a bit like a den of debauchery and a bit like a fucking sewer of weird propaganda and consumerism in an island surrounded by this sort of weirdly austere totalitarian regime. But of course it wasn't. It was just a different regime. It was an interesting time. And to get closer to the kind of the essence of it was to go and live there, I mean, don't forget, it was the middle of the Cold War. You have to remember, when I went there in 1984, it was the middle of the Cold War. It was, and there were missiles pointing from the Soviets to the West, banks of them, and we were expecting Holocaust any fucking minute.
Right.
So it felt like, this was a different era. You can't judge it by the same yardstick that we judge things today. We have just different problems now and different kind of environment. It was weirdly intense. And the thing was, it wasn't kind of, when I went to visit and I started working there, I'd been living in Hamburg, which is in the middle of which is in north of West Germany. When I first went there, I didn't want to kind of run away because it was the front line. It was like right in the middle of East Germany. It was interesting. It was like I got drawn towards the center of the flame, not like I didn't want to run away from it. It was quite a weird and interesting time.
I can imagine. I mean, I couldn't. I'd go bonkers. I would just be like on pins and needles, and my nerves would be shot. I mean, just the littlest thing, I'd be jumpy. That's a crazy time in the world. That's for sure.
Yeah. And another crazy time now. Everything just stays the same, but fucking changes. It's weird.
Yeah, you're true. That's right. Now, do you do anything differently during the writing and recording process that helps you keep your mind fresh and open to not let the music get stale or go down a path that you didn't want to go down the last time but went back down again?
Well, that's interesting now, and I think I bring it back to the people that I work with, keep it fresh. And also I find another thing that keeps it fresh is all the work I've done before up until like two years ago was done in an absolute, I was a serious long-term fucking heroin addict, alcoholic, benzo addict, everything that I plowed that furrow and wrung every drop out of that particular stone or many stones for many years. And it is different, it's different to do things straight and sober. It's kind of, you get it's actually, there's more fuel for the fire than being the other way, I found. But I wouldn't want to change anything from the way I did things back in the 80s and the 90s and the noughties. I wouldn't want to change any of that shit.
But the biggest accomplishment, though, man, is you kicked it. I hope I mean,
Yeah.
That's huge, man.
Well, after fucking 37 years of non-stop pedal to the metal, it was. Let's put it like this: my 28 days in rehab was an interesting time.
Oh, wow. Yeah. I lost my cousin due to drugs, and she just never let up. And
really?
Yeah.
It's tragic. And so many of us get fucking, so many people I know, well, I don't know them anymore. It's the only way I can put it, because they ain't around.
Right.
It's got a pretty high fucking attrition rate, man.
What can fans expect at a show from Pig who not got to see you guys live yet, or when they come out to see, what are they going to get at a show?
Well, we're not doing a tour this year in the States. We will be out next year, but you will probably get to hear a lot of stuff from the new record, but also stuff that goes way back, way back, to give a little taste of the sort of some of the other aspects of the kind of catalogue. Obviously it's all woven with the same kind of thread,
right?
The coat, the carpet, a pig or whatever, the coat, but some of it is kind of sonically quite different. So we like to kind of keep it intense, but not have it too samey, if you know what I mean.
Right. Now, you mentioned earlier about the digital era of passing MP3s back and forth with people that you're working with. Do you like this now because you can get albums out quicker working this way? Plus, we got social media now to reach out to more fans. Do you like this?
To be perfectly honest, I'm not gonna lie. I do actually. I don't hark back to sort of the halcyon days of snail mail or whatever you call it.
Yeah.
I did. For example, social media. I was totally resistant to it for so fucking long. And all the things I think are wrong about it now, I thought about. I thought were wrong about it then. But actually, if you're gonna make a record, and there are people who might like it, and they want to know about it, the only way is to go up and shake hands with the fucking devil, is Facebook or whatever, and they will know about it. So we all have to do that shit. Do you know what I mean? Sometimes. Mm-hmm. So it's the social, I could record a track tonight and stick it on social media at 11:30 this evening, and people would have heard it, and they can say, "Oh, it sucks," and they will have forgotten about it just as quickly, probably. But maybe not. You never know. So I actually do. I think it is great, and it is such a weird and frightening time that unless we get a handle on all this shit, it will just go on like a fucking beast unleashed, and so we might as well use it for the best purposes.
Mm-hmm. In your own opinion, what does Pig bring to the table for music that's not out there as of right now?
Well, if anything, I quite like it to be. I like the fact that it's eclectic. I know it makes it harder for people to put it into a box, because people generally, you'll find people who like metal, and they like something else, but they like metal bands, then they like maybe I don't know, a bit of funk or whatever the fuck it is. Whereas we're sort of an umbrella Pig is an umbrella that's quite broad. And under that umbrella, we've got quite a lot of different genres. I do ambient stuff and jazz stuff and full-on thumping metal stuff and industrial stuff with metal guitars, but also orchestrally type stuff. So that can be quite challenging for people.
And you're right. There's lots of stuff on here for everybody. I've listened to it. I like it. I dig it. And I'm a rock, metal, hardcore punk guy. And yep. I dig it, man. You can put it on and just lay in and relax to it. And it's good stuff.
Cool. I appreciate that, John. That's very kind of you to say that.
Support-wise, is there a country or location that surprises you that you guys even get support from?
No, because I find it's, there are some people who fly from Australia to see us play in London, because I've never toured down there. But then again, I think people are pretty much the same wherever, aren't they? So mm-hmm. If I really, I think wherever you're from, if you hear stuff and it resonates with you and whatever, and I don't mean to sound conceited, I'm not madly surprised, because I've liked music from all corners of the globe.
What made you want to become a musician? What was that spark for you that said, yeah, I want to do that right there?
I was brought up in suburbia, just outside London, very uniform, very, very uniform, you know, little kind of houses with two-port kind of garage and stuff, and a front yard and a backyard, very, very uniform, sort of middle class. And to me, growing up there, when I was little, it was nice, but as soon as I became a teenager, you just wanted to escape, because the big smoke, as we call London back then, you know, was just over the horizon, was just out of reach. So escape, you know, it was all about escape for me, you know. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Oh, no. Yeah, totally makes sense. Yeah, I mean, a lot of folks do the same thing. I mean, music was an escape for them. Music was, you know.
Yeah, exactly. And when I was a teenager, 1977 came along, 16 years old, 15 years old, punk rock, it was all kind of happening here in London. And like I said, when you're that age and it's all happening and it's just over there in the city, and I was stuck out in this boring, uniform suburban sort of environment, music was the train out of there. Do you know what I mean?
Is there a show or a moment that stands out possibly to you, being part of PIG, or any band that you've been a part of that you couldn't believe you're part of? Like, man, I can't believe this is happening right now. Is there a show or moment that sticks out for you personally?
Sort of in weird ways, yeah. I mean, I remember fucking my back up on stage in San Francisco and having to crawl off the stage and go to the spine hospital and stuff like that.
Jeez.
But which was quite weird. I climbed over a lighting truss the wrong way, and I just, you know, what do they do? You slip all the discs and fuck your back up. And I couldn't. Anyway, that was kind of tricky. I think that was in '95. Some misguided thoughts. I remember playing at the Roseland in New York and looking down there. It was probably 2000 or something, and all these fucking kids moshing around badly. And I remember thinking, Jesus Christ, they're all half my age. I've got to stop this. And so I did. And now, like years later, I picked up the baton with PIG again and actually enjoy it more than ever.
Oh God, dude, that's crazy. You messed up your back.
Yeah, these things happen.
Oh well,
You
yeah,
know.
yeah, for sure.
Fucked up all my teeth as well, or fucking smashing on microphones and stuff. But such is life, you know. Obstacles of the trade.
Rock and roll.
Indeed.
That's crazy. Now, do you ever get anybody any emails or prior to the shows or after the shows, they tell you maybe that, hey, your music has helped us through a bad time, or just gave us inspiration, or just, you know, helped us get away from the everyday bullshit that we go through? If so,
It's really weird that you asked that, actually, because I always staggered that I do actually get people quite amazed, actually, that people come up and say exactly that thing.
Wow.
And maybe it's because that I've been through the ringer myself with sort of certain kind of, you know, issues of, you know, fucking being a non-stop junkie and all that kind of shit, and an alcoholic, but also other things that maybe there's a light that goes on and people resonate with certain things if they listen to it. You listen to the words, and some people, you don't have to fucking listen to it on that level. You know, you can just like the tune and tap your foot along if you want to. And for other people, maybe it's slightly more immersive, but it's always quite a humbling moment when people come up and say that very thing that you just brought up. And, you know, and one feels humbled by it, but equally sort of honored because there's been a connection there, and it's something that you have in common with that person.
For sure. And it's like I've always said, man, music is an escape for all of us. It's therapy. It resonates with us. And it's the best drug you could ever have, in my opinion.
Absolutely. Amen to that.
Folks, please get out and pick this album up, or just listen to a couple of the songs before you make the decision on purchasing this album. But let me tell you something. I'm not saying this just because Raymond's on here, but it's the fucking truth. This is really good. And I'm not a big electronic guy, rock guy like that with this stuff, but I really, really like this. So please give this a chance. Raymond, how can folks stay in touch with you, buy some merchandise, this album, tour dates, when you go on tour over here?
Well, the place to visit is pigindustries.com, and you've got the merch there and all the info and the links through to labels to buy the stuff, and, you know, and CDs and vinyl, and there's a unique version of double vinyl luxury edition of the Risen album that's only available through Pig Industries. and that's got extra tracks on and all sorts of crap in it, and it's great, and I'm really proud of that thing. And a signed download card and special artwork that's all 3D and weird on the front. So pigindustries.com is the place to go, man.
Folks, this is out June 8th via Metropolis Records. Raymond, before I let you go, would you care to do a promo for my show?
Absolutely not at all, John, as long as I can remember what to say. Here we go. This is Raymond from Pig. You are listening to BODS Mayhem Hour.
Everybody stick around. We got some great music coming up, and you only hear these interviews right here on BODS Mayhem Hour and BODS Mayhem Radio Network. Thank you so much, Raymond.
Thank you, John. It's been a pleasure talking to you, man.
You too, man.
All the best.